There, we are still, unfortunately, one of the poorest large countries in the world on a per capita basis, and have a long way to go before we reasonably address the concerns of each one of our citizens. We're often compared with China, but the Chinese economy, which was smaller than ours in the 1960s, is now 5 times our size at market exchange rates. The average Chinese citizen is over 4 times richer than the average Indian. The sobering thought is that we have a long way to go before we can claim we have arrived. As a central banker who has to be pragmatic, I cannot get euphoric if India is the fastest growing large economy. Our current growth certainly reflects the hard work of the government and the people of the country. But we have to repeat this performance for the next 20 years before we can give every Indian a decent livelihood. This is not to disparage what has been done and is being done. The central and state governments have been creating a platform for strong and sustainable growth, and I'm confident the payoffs from all this are on their way. But again, until we've stayed on this path for some time, I must remain cautious. We must remember that our international reputation is of a country with great promise, but which has under-delivered in the past. This is why we're still the poorest country on a per capita basis amongst the BRICS. We need to change perceptions by delivering steadily on our promise for a long time, by implementing the kind of program that Sri Rai talked about in his address. We cannot get carried away by our current superiority in growth, for as soon as we start believing in our own superiority and start distributing future wealth as if we already have it, we stop doing all that is required to continue growing. This movie has played too many times in India's past for us not to know how it ends. So in speaking to a foreign journalist the other day who asked what it felt like to be the bright spot in the world economy, I used the phrase, "Andho mein kana raja," or in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. The proverb has a long multinational history. The Dutch philosopher Erasmus used it in Latin when he wrote, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing this, "In regione caecorum rex es luscus." You know the translation. But he was probably inspired by earlier work. This proverb is pretty common. My intent in saying this, and it was an offhand comment in an interview, was to signal that our outperformance was accentuated because world growth was weak. But we in India were still hungry for more growth. I then explained that we were not yet at our potential, though we were at a cusp of a substantial pickup in growth given all the reforms that were underway, the renaissance that Sri Rai talked about. In our news-hungry country, however, our domestic papers headlined the phrase I used. To be fair, they offered the surrounding context, but few read beyond the headline. So the interview became moderately controversial with the implication that I was denigrating our success rather than emphasizing the need to do more. The more general point is every word or phrase a public figure speaks is intensely wrung out for meaning. When words are hung out to dry, out of context, as in a newspaper headline, it then becomes fair game for anyone who wants to fill in meaning to create mischief. Worst, of course, are words or proverbs that have common usage elsewhere, because those can most easily and deliberately be misinterpreted. If we are to have a reasonable public dialogue, we should read words in their context, not stripped of it. That may, however, be a forlorn hope.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at etnowlive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/etnow.